The last time humanity offered peace, 3 star systems laughed. The second time, 2 vanished. This time, Commander K.O. Riven Mace showed up late to the Galactic Summit with a smirk, a flask of jet fuel, and a briefcase full of threats written in stand-up comedy format. And when he walked out mid-sentence, the Council should have begged. But they scoffed. Now the galaxy is burning, and no one remembers who lit the match. They called it the Summit of Final Accord. A theater of fragile egos and ceremonial speeches, orbiting a dying star like parasites feeding on its last warmth. Aliens of every species gathered in the chamber, hollow-eyed diplomats in ornate robes, war-beaten tacticians trying to smile through clenched mandibles. The message was simple: humanity would sign the treaty. Or else. They didn't expect K.O. Riven Mace. He stepped in late, calm as midnight. His coat, charcoal black, dusted with battle scarring, moved like a shadow given form. No guards. No entourage. Just him, a flask, and a briefcase with strange markings that pulsed in sync with his heartbeat. The room went quiet. The Veltrani High Speaker opened his beak. Ah! The humans have finally deigned to grace us. Kale unscrewed the flask and took a slow sip. Had to finish a war on the way. You know how it is. Laughter. Nervous. Confused. The council speaker rose, towering above the others with a dozen eyes blinking independently. Commander Mace. We are here to ensure peace, not trade barbs. Sit. Let us settle the terms. Kale smirked. Terms? He dropped into the seat offered to him. That's adorable. A hush fell over the chamber. The speaker inhaled, flaring gill-like vents. The terms are simple. Humanity will disarm its Shroud fleet. You will relinquish military claims beyond the Veil. You will submit to third-party surveillance, cease hostile deployments, and recognize Council sovereignty. In return, we offer trade rights and security guarantees. Kale blinked once. You're offering to leash the wolf, then feed him scraps and call it a partnership. The speaker bristled. Your provocations endanger trillions. And your delusions insult billions. Another delegate leaned forward. Thin, luminous. The archivery known for their ancient logic. Commander. Earth stands at the edge of extinction. Your people are wounded. Surely peace is preferable. We are not wounded, Kale said. We are tempered. A ripple of unease spread. The Korath Admiral snarled, his face a twitching mesh of tusks and teeth. Humans fight like animals. You cling to rage. We evolved past blood feuds. Kale's gaze sharpened, voice cool. No. You just got worse at winning them. The speaker slammed a limb on the pedestal. Enough. These negotiations demand respect. Kale stood. Calm. I see. You don't want respect. You want submission wrapped in ceremony. He walked forward, slow, deliberate. Every step echoed. Let me make this clear. He set the briefcase on the council floor. Humanity attended these talks as a courtesy, not an obligation. We've been quiet. Restrained. You thought that meant weak. The Veltrani delegate tried to interrupt. Kale didn't look at him. You speak of peace, he continued. But what you offer is not peace. It's control. Surveillance. Obedience dressed in silk and signed in ink. We've seen this before. The archivery shifted. Then you refuse the accord? Kale looked up. Every eye in the chamber locked on him. We didn't come to sign anything. He opened the briefcase. Inside, a single, humming sphere. Black as a singularity, pulsing with slow rhythm. Not a bomb. Not a weapon. Just waiting. The chamber reacted instantly. Guards moved, weapons drawn, panic blooming. Kale didn't flinch. This isn't a threat. It's a timer. The council froze. Kale unscrewed the cap on his flask, took one last sip, and sighed. We gave you a chance to treat us like equals. You chose to lecture. You brought knives to a conversation and wondered why the wolf laughed. The speaker hissed. You'll doom us all. Kale turned toward the exit. Not doom. Consequence. As he reached the chamber doors, he paused. You thought we feared war. We don't. We survived it. We mastered it. We made it part of our bloodstream. You should have accepted peace when it was offered. Because now? He looked back with a half-smile. You don't get a second offer. Cale walked out. The doors sealed behind him. 37 seconds later, the sphere powered down. A silent signal raced through the galactic ether, invisible and instant. Satellites blinked out. Long-range scanners failed. Outposts ceased transmitting. Entire sectors went quiet. No explosions. No fleets. No blood. Just silence. In the Citadel's control tower, a technician whispered, Our systems, they're just gone. Back in the chamber, the speaker slumped. What did he do? The archivery stared at the spot where Cale had stood. He walked away. And outside the Citadel, in the shadow of a decaying sun, the stars began to change. Not with fire. Not with invasion. With absence. One by one, the Council's fleets, stations, colonies, began vanishing from the maps. Not destroyed. Erased. As if they'd never existed. Cale didn't fire a shot. He just reminded the galaxy what humans become when the noise of diplomacy is replaced by the clarity of war. The Council didn't panic immediately. That would have required humility, and they weren't built for that. At first, they dismissed it. Human theatrics. Symbolism. A dramatic exit with a shiny toy meant to rattle the seats. They called it posturing. They called Cale Mesa performer. Then the comms began to fail. Praxian outposts stopped reporting. Automated trade beacons blinked out across the rim. Surveillance drones along the outer sectors returned garbled feeds, frames full of static, long shadows, then blackness. One planet sent a distress ping, short, frantic, repeating, There's something outside the sky. It looped 3 times, then stopped. No follow-up. No signal. No survivors. At Council command, Admiral Vurek of the Shix Collective leaned into the screen. Our fleet paths are corrupted. Star maps are misaligned. Entire systems appear to be missing. Missing how? The speaker demanded. Gone from every archive, every database, Vurek said. Like they never existed. They blamed technical failure. Then sabotage. Then they blamed each other. Then they went quiet. Because something else was happening. The Cale broadcast. It began as a soft signal bleeding through every frequency, civilian, military, encrypted, even the old sublight bands no one had used in centuries. No image. Just his voice, calm and deliberate. You were warned. It repeated. Every 3 minutes. No origin point. Couldn't be jammed. Couldn't be traced. It played from locked vaults. It echoed through vacuum comms. It found its way into dreams. On Varnath Prime, a training simulator booted into a simulation of Earth, and couldn't exit. The simulation adapted. It developed new terrain. It began fighting back. The cadets running the sim were trapped for 19 hours. When recovered, they spoke in Earth Standard, despite never learning the language. One was laughing. In the Council Data Core, a technician opened a file labeled Final Accord. Inside, he found a handwritten note scanned in. History is memory with a body count. Let's help you forget. The terminal melted seconds later. Cale's voice returned. This isn't war. This is forgetting with precision. The Council called an emergency session. 11 delegates failed to appear. Their planets were blank. No data. No ships. No names. They're being unmade, said the archivery archivist. From record, from mind, from time. This is impossible. The Veltrani delegate hissed. No weapon can do this. Because it's not a weapon, the archivery replied. It's a truth bomb. He isn't killing us. He's rewriting the narrative where we never mattered. They turned to the Shroud fleet. The Shroud was legend, a term whispered by pirates, smuggled into black site military logs, half believed by strategists who studied defeat. No official confirmation. No recorded engagement. But always the same result: silence, and then absence. The speaker, trembling now, turned to Admiral Vurek. Deploy every fleet. We must retaliate. Retaliate against what? Vurek asked. The stars? Our own fading memory? Earth. Attack Earth. Which one? What do you mean? Vurek opened a screen. There were 5 Earths. All in different coordinates. All broadcasting different distress calls. All surrounded by anomaly clouds that scrambled perception and logic. When they dispatched drones, the drones returned different recordings. Some showed peaceful cities. Some showed empty wastelands. One showed a statue of Kale Mace the size of a moon. Decoys, the speaker whispered. Or projections, Vurek said. Or psi warfare constructs. We don't care, the Korath warlord barked. We choose one and burn it. They chose Earth 3. Mobilized 30 warships. 17 vanished en route. 9 arrived at the target. Only 1 returned. Its captain aged 40 years in transit. His hair white, voice trembling. He wept during debrief. There was laughter, he said. It came through the walls. It wasn't angry. It was amused. They asked what happened to the others. They surrendered, he whispered. They dropped their weapons and started apologizing. They didn't know why. That's when the speaker finally asked the question he should have asked days ago. What does Kale want? The archivery answered. Nothing. Nothing? He offered peace. We refused. This is the consequence. The Korath slammed a clawed hand on the table. So we do nothing? Let the humans erase us? No, said the archivery. We prepare for the final broadcast. It came 3 hours later. Every screen in the galaxy flickered. Emergency alerts failed. Backup systems crashed. One by one, every colony, every ship, every room was filled with Kale's voice. Final message. His image appeared. Seated in a chair, sipping from his flask. A war-torn sky behind him. I want to thank the Council. You made this easy. You chose pride over caution, ego over curiosity. He leaned forward. Now you'll be legends. But only to us. Because you won't remember yourselves. Your names. Your flags. Your mistakes. He raised the flask. To peace. He drank. The feed ended. Systems rebooted. When the speaker opened his mouth to speak, he forgot what he was going to say. The name of his planet slipped from his mind. His translator failed to recall his language. Across the galaxy, names vanished from stone. Memories crumbled. Maps redrew themselves. Kale didn't win. He just deleted the concept of opposition. There's movement near the helix rim, the comms officer reported. Non-council. No signature. No ID. Just noise. Define noise, Admiral Vurek demanded, pacing behind the council war table. The screen lit up. A black mass hung in space, absorbing light, radar, logic. It didn't reflect. It didn't announce. It existed as a suggestion more than a ship, yet every sensor trembled. They're here, whispered the archivery. The Shroud Fleet? The Veltrani delegate asked, voice thin. The image distorted. Signals bent. Vurek's voice shook. Not a fleet. Not in the traditional sense. It's more like an idea wearing armor. The council fell into bickering. Some demanded retaliation. Others pleaded for a second peace offering. A few whispered about evacuation. We'll surrender, the Korath warlord finally said. They win. Let them take it. We can't fight shadows. You don't get it, Vurek muttered. They're not asking for surrender. They're removing the question. Lights flickered. Communications failed again. Not jammed. Rewritten. Entire servers began spitting out human quotes. Kale's voice, warped and smiling. You're not under attack, it said. You're under revision. One of the Council's defense AI cores initiated a purge protocol on itself. Every automated system began rewriting directives, priorities, and purpose. Thousands of drones detached from command and drifted aimlessly, unsure of who they were fighting. Kale's voice cut through the chaos again. "We wanted peace. You made us curious." The speaker stood. "This is madness. We must strike at Earth." "You don't even know where it is," Burek said. "Then any version will do." The last Korath dreadnought prepared to fire on Earth 7, one of the suspected human decoys. It charged its plasma rail, aligned its fusion arrays, and released the shot. The shot reversed. Not figuratively. The beam curled backward in space, folded around itself, and disintegrated the dreadnought from the inside out. The explosion wrote words across the stars. "Try again." Every Council species with a ship capable of warp jumped away from their homeworlds. It didn't help. Home didn't matter anymore. Kale wasn't targeting geography. He was targeting legacy. Entire archives became corrupted. History began to fracture. Important figures vanished from records. Governments found their own files rewriting themselves to remove mentions of wars against humans. Even the idea of conflict blurred. Council officials woke up unable to remember who they had once considered enemies. One by one, they forgot the names of their fleets, their planets, then their flags. The speaker, desperate, called for Kale directly. A secure channel opened. Kale appeared. Sitting in a war room. Casual. Calm. "You've had your fun," the speaker growled. "What do you want?" "I told you." "Nothing." "Then why do this?" Kale shrugged. "Because now you'll never again assume we need permission." The speaker leaned forward. "You're erasing us from history." "No," Kale replied. "You did that yourselves when you underestimated the only species that made war an art form and memory a weapon." The speaker snarled. "We can still fight." "Against what?" There was silence. Kale looked around, mock confused. "Exactly." Then he leaned closer. "We never wanted to be gods. You just refused to treat us like people." The channel closed. The Council tried one final gambit, Project Dominus, a forbidden relic buried beneath Council space. A reality stabilizer designed to anchor truth and history to immutable timelines. They activated it. The galaxy shook. Nothing changed. Then Kale's voice returned. Not through screens or comms, through thought. "Ah. Dominus. That old thing." People across the galaxy collapsed as the concept of time slipped sideways. Some aged decades. Some forgot how old they were. Children were born remembering things that hadn't happened. Kale again. "You deployed a hammer to fix a broken mirror." The speaker grabbed his console, shaking. "You're insane." "I'm effective," the speaker screamed. "You can't just erase civilizations." "We didn't erase you," Kale said. "We updated the script. And you stopped being relevant to the plot." Back on the Council floor, only 4 delegates remained. Their aides had stopped recognizing them. Their security drones scanned them and logged. Entity not found. Even their own biosigns had ceased syncing with ship logs. They were ghosts. One delegate, voice cracking, said, "Please, mercy." Kale's voice was cold. "You don't get mercy. You get the end credits." The speaker wept. "We were trying to protect peace." Kale's tone didn't rise. It dropped. "Peace isn't something you enforce. It's something you respect." In the final council chamber, the lights dimmed. Not because power failed. Because reality stopped supporting the idea of a governing body that once ruled the galaxy. As the chamber dissolved, as systems failed and walls became dust, Kale's voice delivered one final thought. "Next time, just say thank you." And then the council was gone. The galaxy didn't end with a bang. It unraveled quietly, like a story no one finished reading. The archivery archivist stood alone in what used to be a library, now just a shelf filled with blinking screens and incomplete sentences. Whole paragraphs had vanished from historical records. Species names dissolved into question marks. The timeline stuttered. Memories contradicted each other. When he accessed the core archive, the response was a single phrase. Redacted by consequence. He wasn't the only one left, but it was beginning to feel that way. Across surviving council sectors, the same question kept surfacing. Who were we fighting? Most didn't remember. Some pretended they didn't. A few whispered the name Kale Riven Mace like it was an ancient curse. But even that memory faded, turning into something mythic. A bad dream from a forgotten war. Those who survived the unmaking, officials, officers, drifters, tried to rebuild. But every effort to organize a response collapsed under the weight of eroded meaning. Languages shifted. Stars were misnamed. Coordinates looped back on themselves. Ships launched missions to known systems and found unmarked planets orbiting dead suns. They couldn't tell if the map was broken or if they were. Then, for the first time in weeks, a broadcast came through. Not human. Not Kale. A civilian relay drone. Damaged, drifting. It repeated a location. A date. A voice that wasn't Kale's but referenced him. This is where it began. This is where it ends. Come if you remember. There was no council left to approve the expedition. No fleet to sanction it. Just those who needed an answer. A fleet of survivors, old warships stitched together from shattered navies, limped toward the coordinates. They arrived at a system that didn't exist on any record. A single black star sat at the center, orbited by debris that somehow glowed with memory, echoes of things erased. The survivors disembarked, drawn to a small structure on a planetoid scarred by impossible weather. Inside stood a man. Kale. Older. Tired. Alive. He was alone, sitting on a metal crate, drinking from the same flask. He didn't rise. He looked up and said, "So you came." A former Veltrani ambassador stepped forward. "What is this place?" "A monument," Kale said. "To what?" "To the last time anyone tried to govern without listening." The ambassador frowned. "You destroyed everything. Erased species. Dismantled identity. Why?" Kale took a sip. "Because we asked for peace. And they laughed." "Then why let us live?" Kale's tone didn't change. "Because not all of you laughed." An ex-commander from the Shix Collective spoke up. "We were wrong, but this was beyond war." "It wasn't war," Kale replied. "It was punctuation." He stood, finally. His posture wasn't proud, but resolute. "You don't understand. We didn't want to rule. We wanted to be left alone. We gave warning after warning. You kept pushing." A former diplomat asked. "Why didn't you fight like before? With ships, guns, losses?" Kale's eyes were tired but sharp. "Because every time we fought on your terms, you rewrote the story. You called us aggressors. Savages. So we stopped playing by your narrative." The group exchanged uneasy glances. One finally asked, "So what happens now?" Kale looked around the room, eyes scanning faces etched with guilt, confusion, survival. "You rebuild," he said. "Differently this time. Without arrogance. Without assuming you're at the center of everything. Will you help?" "No." "Will humans come back?" "Some already have," he said. "You just don't remember." Silence settled again. "Then why are you still here?" someone asked. "To witness," Kale answered. "Because stories don't end with destruction. They end with the choice of what not to become again." Someone laughed bitterly. "You think this will make us better?" "No," he said. "I think this gives you the chance." He turned away, gazing out a small viewport at the black star. "You called us monsters for surviving. Now you have the opportunity to understand what surviving takes." He began walking toward a side passage, offering no goodbye, no closing statement. Just before disappearing into the dark, he paused and looked back. "You won't remember this in 100 years. That's the point. But maybe the way you treat each other will change. And if it doesn't, we'll still be watching." Then he was gone. The survivors stood there, unsure whether they had witnessed a warning or a benediction. Outside, the strange star pulsed once, twice, then dimmed completely. Back in space, as their ships drifted from the system, the archives began to realign. Names returned. Coordinates corrected. But the term, Galactic Council, no longer held any meaning. It appeared in only one entry. A former coalition. Disbanded due to irrelevance. In a child's lesson program on a reborn colony, a question flashed across the screen. Who ended the Galactic War? The system paused. Then replied. Nobody remembers. But far beyond the charted stars, where time twisted and silence ruled, a ghost of a man in a black coat raised a drink to the void. Still watching. Just in case.